So don't say anything nasty about anyone from this point on, because you never know who's listening. It will also just go up on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So anyone who wants to see it there can see it there. So welcome everyone to this webinar. I'm so glad that you're all here. I do want this to be a little interactive. I really don't care if your video is on or not. Do keep yourself muted if there's stuff in the background. I get it. But if you want to participate and shout out questions, there will be a question session at the end. But I do also want everyone participating as much as possible. So I am going to start and utilize the chat. My Zoom, of course, is being a little weird right now because my internet is unstable. So feel free to just shout answers out. And if I don't hear you, do use the chat because I can see the chat. So that is working for me. So we are just going to jump right into it. I am going to talk a little bit about two of my favorite keyword tools. One is free, the other is not. So the first one that is free, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat. Actually, yeah, I can just put the link here. It is called Answer the Public. I don't think anyone not watching the recording can, or I don't think the people watching the recording can see the chat, but you all can see the chat. So it's answerthepublic.com is my favorite. It has a free version and a paid version. So the free version, I believe, gives you 3 searches per day. So if you're just doing your own keyword research, it totally makes sense just to go with the free version. If you're doing more than 3 searches per day, then you probably want to cough up for the paid subscription. But I'll go ahead and show you how it works. So does anyone have a topic? Let's shout something out. Who has a topic that they want to do a little research on? It can be 1 word, it can be 2 words, it can be as broad as you want it to be, or as narrow as you want it to be. Anyone have anything?
Cat ladies.
What was that?
Cat ladies.
Cat ladies. Okay, so I am not sharing my screen. I just realized that's going to make it kind of hard for you to see what I'm doing. All right, cat lady. So this is Answer the Public. And we'll just put in cat ladies. And what Answer the Public does is it kind of searches the internet. I believe it relies on Google. So it will give you all of the most commonly asked questions from Google using the search term cat ladies. So it always pops up as this with pop-ups. Those are fun. So this is fun and pretty, but you can't really see it. So you just go up here and from visualization, you go to data. And then you can actually read the questions. So you can go from everywhere to are cat ladies crazy to why are cat ladies single. So this is everything, all the questions with R in it. Guys can be cat ladies too, book. I love that. How, where, when, not a whole lot of information there. What are cat ladies, et cetera, et cetera. So, and you can just keep going there. Then we have prepositions. Again, pretty, not very useful. Click over here to data to 4 cat ladies of the apocalypse, cat ladies in movies. You have a whole lot more questions here in that using that same keyword, but they're in a different format, and you can just keep going. We've got comparisons, we've got related. So this is where I like to choose one. Let's go with what are cat ladies, something easy. So just because these are some of the most commonly asked questions does not necessarily mean that these are good keywords to be using for a variety of reasons. So I always take something that I want to search, and when I really want to dig into it, I go over to my favorite keyword research tool, which is SERPstat, which you do have to pay for. They do not have a free version. They are totally worth it. It's only like $70 a month right now. And they have the most accurate data. I did my research comparing the different keyword research tools before I went ahead and gave them my money, and that was the one that had the best results. So that's why I use SERPstat. And again, I will go ahead and put that in the chat. So anyone who wants it can go ahead. I'm gonna and get that. So in the meantime, I go over to keyword research overview. And then I'll just put in my keyword here. So what are cat ladies? Not a whole lot of data. I'm going to actually try to go more broad and see if anything comes up. Here we go. Okay. So now I can tell you what all these words mean, right? So volume, the 14.8 thousand. So this is the average number of searches that this keyword gets per month. It's not total, it is per month. The PPC competition. So PPC stands for pay per click. So that means if you are running an ad for this word, this is the score of how hard it is to try and get that particular keyword, how much you're gonna see. Then how much you pay for it is over here, the CPC, which is probably what you care about. CPC is cost per click. So this is 49 cents. So if you want to run, let's say, a Google ad with the term cat ladies in it, you'll pay 49 cents every time someone clicks on the ad. Not every time the ad appears, not every time someone views the ad, every time someone clicks on your ad and goes through to your website. So the PPC competition gives you an idea of like, is it really competitive? Are there a lot of people using it in paid advertising, or is it really easy? So what I like about SERPstat is that it's all color coded, right? So you've got everything is green, which means it's like super easy to use in advertising. It has lots of searches. That's great. Then we go over here to keyword difficulty, which is always a score out of 100. So you can see the score is 28, which means it's actually pretty easy to rank for. SERPstat won't show it green until it's below, I think, 20 or 25, in which case SERPstat is like, yeah, it's a great keyword, go ahead and try to rank for it. That's not always feasible to find a keyword with a keyword difficulty score that is that low. I mean, it's happened. I have used keywords that are that low. It's great. But, you know, sometimes you get a phrase like cat lady, and yeah, you have a few people using it, but not a ton. So the keyword difficulty score, if it's a score of 1, that means there's no one out there using that search term. You have free reign to use it, and you're probably going to, you know, show up on the first page of Google, no problem. If it's a score of 100, that means there are tons of people out there using that search term, and it's going to be really hard to rank for it. So you want to find a sweet spot where, again, you go over to the volume. So you want to make sure you have a good volume, but not a super high keyword difficulty. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how many people are searching for it. You're not going to be able to compete with all those people and get on the first page of Google. So 28, I think, is a decent score. I would absolutely use this. So then we have related keywords, and they're divided up. We've got the organic keywords and we've got the paid keywords. So again, if you are thinking about running an ad using this keyword, here are some of the keywords that show up in ads that are related. We've got cat lady box, cat lady box coupon. I don't know what that means. And then over in organic keywords, we've got ladies with cats, cat lady, singular. You do always want to, when you are searching any given keyword, make sure, cat lady is a great example. You've got cat ladies singular and cat ladies plural, and they're not always necessarily going to have the same numbers associated with them. Some of them might have a higher search volume or a higher keyword difficulty. So if you are doing keyword research and you want to make sure that you're getting that keyword in multiple places throughout your content, you're getting it in your headline, you're getting it in your subheadings and throughout your content, in your metadata, that's great. But make sure that if you're using different iterations of that word or phrase, make sure all those iterations make sense for you to use. And then we go down here to keyword trends. So remember when I talked about the average monthly search volume, right? So this is on average. So we can actually see with this keyword that there was a spike in keyword in September 2021. Apparently it spiked up to 100%, right? So that was when We had the, I don't know how many searches we had, but for the rest of the time, it's fairly normal. It's down here, right? So the 14.8 number is going to average all this out. So it's probably going to be somewhere in the 50% range up here. But most of the time, you're not getting that many searches. Most of the time it's down here, which is still what, like 7,000, 5,000 words per month. That's still a fair number of searches per month. But I love to point this out because sometimes you do get certain keywords that get a lot of searches at one point in time, and then you might see it spike, you might see it trend upward, you might see it trend downwards after a while. Things like New Year's resolutions, I think, are always a great example. You get a lot of people searching New Year's resolutions and using keywords around that term in like January, maybe even December, right? But in like June or July, no one is using those search terms. So I always like to look at this just to make sure that I'm not using something that's like super topical. And then you've got your competitors. So who is out there that is using this? You've got Pinterest, Amazon, Wikipedia. This is always a lot of fun to look at just so that you know who your competitors are. And this is something that I tend to look at to make sure that my keyword is relevant to what I'm trying to write. So if I have, I don't know, if I want a cat lady movie, for example, and I see things like Amazon and Etsy pop up, that's not about a movie, that's a product, right? So that's something to keep in mind too. Like, are these really your competitors? If you do create content using this keyword, is it going to make sense given the competitors in this organic search? And then you've got some other fun stuff, but that's really what I like to focus on right there. So what do we search? Cat ladies. And I see there's something in the chat. What info do you get when you use Answer the Public only? That's pretty much it. What info the public has, Answer the Public has, this is it. You get these questions. You do not get any of this data as far as volume, CPC, keyword difficulty, related keywords. Related keywords, I should think, and you are getting, because you are getting all these questions using this one keyword, but you really can't compare, you know, like the keyword trend, the competitors and graph. Answer the Public is not going to tell you any of that. So I do always start with Answer the Public, especially if I just have no idea what it is I'm writing about. And that can give me some ideas as to like, what are some topics around this that people are looking for? And then I go over to SERPstat. That's why I use multiple tools, is because some will do one thing and some will do another. So we've got cat ladies, so that's our keyword, but we could want to, let's say, why are cat ladies single? So I'm actually going to take you over to one of my other favorite tools, called CoSchedule. So this is where you want to get your headline optimized. CoSchedule also has a free version and a paid version. I use the free version because the paid version mostly has to do with SEO stuff. And I just showed you all the SEO stuff. I do all that SEO stuff with my other tools before I ever start creating a headline or creating content. So we're going to let CoSchedule. I go over here to the Headline Studio. Is this making sense to everyone so far? Should I slow down? Should I go back and cover anything else? You can go ahead and unmute yourself and let me know, or put it in the chat. So I would just write my headline here.
So I think this is helpful, and I think I'll probably watch this video again.
Excellent. And Dee Dee, it says in the chat, it's very helpful. Awesome. Yeah, this video is going to go out to everyone who registered. So even though you're here, you're still going to get the recording. So don't worry about that. So when I go to research my headline, what do we say? Why are cat ladies crazy? Or what was it? Why are cat ladies single? I don't know. I'll go with Our Cat Lady's Crazy. And then we hit analyze, or you just hit enter. And it's thinking about it and it's analyzing it. And it's trying to get me to give them money, which I'm not going to do. So 48 is not great. It's got common words. It's really got no uncommon words. It does have an emotional word, which is crazy. So that's good. You do want to have some emotion. It's actually a rating of 25% emotional, which is pretty good, but there are no power words. So remember that your headlines always need to be emotional. Lindsay, I will not thank you for reminding me to drop the link. So let me go ahead and do that now before I forget again, because I will forget again. So here is CoSchedule, and I believe I forgot to put SERPstat in the chat as well. So I will go ahead and do that. So we've got the score, word count is low, character count is low, reading grade level is good. It always yells at me that it wants like a really low grading, reading grade level, like 6 or lower, right? Which again, it depends on your audience, because sometimes I do use bigger words or I use acronyms like SEO, and that raises the reading level, but I'm in a B2B space, right? So my audience is educated and they do know what those bigger words mean. So I'm comfortable with it. So reading grade level, I would not pay too much attention to it if you are in the B2B space or professional services. If you are more in the B2C space, maybe you do want to keep your reading grade level a little bit lower. Just keep that in mind. It's clear, it's neutral, it's skimmable. I always like to see if it's circling the topic, right? Our keyword was cat ladies. So it circled my keyword. So it identified this as the main topic, which is awesome. I always look at that as a really good sign. That means that I am on point. What's a good score? Oh gosh, I don't know. I do know, I'm just trying to figure out how to display it for you. Let's go with, why do people think cat ladies are crazy? This again is kind of, whatchamacallit. It has, there we go. It's still yellow. Anyway, short answer to what is a good score, like 70. I think once you cross the 70 threshold is when this goes from yellow to green. So when you see the overall headline score go to green, that's when you know that the headline studio likes it. I always want to keep in mind, though, more than the overall headline score, what all I'm being told over here. If something is more emotional, if something, if it's got that why, or it's got a good reading level, or it's skimmable, I'll take those into account. Sometimes I'll go for the lower overall headline score if there's something else deeper in the content that aligns with what I'm trying to accomplish. So again, it circled my topic, cat ladies, that's great, but it's not super skimmable. Part of people do tend to skim, the first 3 and then the last 3 words of a headline. So part of that keyword is buried and is not super visible. So you're kind of losing out here. So just keep that in mind. That's why this went from green to yellow. It's like, it's kind of in that last 3 words, but you could improve the skimmability function. So just keep that in mind. I actually like to put my keyword as close to the front as I can, just because that tends to get better results. So we went with, what was it, cat ladies? So then I always go over to my friend Google and just type in the keyword that I'm searching, because I want to see what comes up. So we actually have a product that pops up that says shop cat ladies. So if we were to put in, let's say what are cat ladies, which was another keyword, right? There we go. Now we get the dictionary definition. We get Cat Lady Wikipedia, Urban Dictionary, stuff about the cat lady stereotype. This is more informational. So if you're going to use cat ladies as a keyword, There we go. Just be aware that, you know, there are videos. See, now it disappeared. Google is messing with me. I was going to say that if you get those products up there at the top, that can be an indication of the search intent behind the keyword. So the search intent has to do with what are people looking for? Are they looking for a product? Are they looking for a definition? Are they looking for a movie? Are they looking for information about a particular topic? So I always use that to inform the kinds of content that I'm creating using that particular keyword. So again, we can go back to what are cat ladies. That got you a bunch of definitions, right? Like people are searching for the definition of cat lady if they're looking, what is cat lady? So you would probably want to use that in a blog post. You would not necessarily want to use that on a products page. Whereas earlier we saw that carousel up at the top, all those products when we put in cat ladies. So maybe we would like to use that on a sales page, depending on what it is you're searching. So the 4 types of intent are, you've got navigational, keep that in mind. If someone, for example, if someone is searching my company, AV Writing Services, but they, you know, they kind of remember it, but they don't quite, maybe they put in AV Writing Services or AZ Writing Services, but Google knows who I am, right? Google knows my company. So they'll see that, you know, what people are putting in is similar to my company and my URL. So they'll still bring up my URL. That's a navigational search. That's someone who's looking for something specific. They're just trying to get there. The transactional searches do tend to have products listed in them. They also tend to have things like the best or best price or cheapest or most expensive or reviews. That's when someone is later in the buyer journey and they're considering buying, but they haven't quite made a decision yet. So keep that in mind as well. And then there's informational, and that's where you tend to get the what are's, the how-tos, all that good stuff. So that's what I tend to use for my blog posts. Lindsay asked, so if a keyword brings up progress, is it safe to assume that the keyword is more competitive or more expensive? If a keyword brings up what do you mean? Products. There we go. It might be more expensive. It is worth noting. I look at search intent more as like, where am I using this keyword rather than is the keyword competitive? Again, I always go back to that keyword research tool to look up, you know, how competitive it is. It won't necessarily change based on the search intent, although the CPC might change. That cost per click might go up if there's a product involved, just because more people then probably are running ads using that particular keyword. So that is something to keep in mind. But again, your keyword research tool will tell you that. I just always go over to Google to look up, to find out that search intent, just to make sure I'm using the right keywords in the right kinds of content. If products come up, the CP, it's also worth noting that the cost per click is not at all related to the search volume or the SEO competition score. It is completely its own thing. It's basically a bidding war. If there are lots of people using a particular keyword in their ads and they're paying money for it and they're willing to pay more money for it, then the cost per click can go way up really quickly, even if it has a low search volume. I have seen this with keywords before where like there's not a whole lot of people searching it, but the people who are searching for it are ready to buy and they're ready to pay big bucks. So that can really cause the CPC, the cost per click for that keyword, to skyrocket. So I think that's pretty much it. And then I did want to remind you as to like the best places to put your keyword. Always your headline, because that is the first thing Google crawls. Google crawls different pieces of your content before it crawls the rest of your content. Headline and the URL are always front and center. So the URL is what actually goes up here, right? So it'll be, you know, yourdomain.com/blog/URL. And it could be, you know, how to conduct keyword research, right? Like this webinar, I think the URL was something like that, avwritingservices.com/webinar/how to conduct keyword research, right? But I could change that URL at the end. It could just say keywords if I wanted it to. So it's all about what people are searching for. You want to make sure that it goes in those pieces of content that Google is reading first. If you have a long piece of content, if you're writing a blog post and you've got a lot of subheadings, make sure your subheadings have the keyword to or related keywords. Because again, Google is going to crawl that information in your description. So this is a perfect example of cat ladies. And then you've got this meta description down here, which has cat ladies. This is our search term. It's right here. And Google highlighted it for us just to say, hey, here's the keyword. We know this content is relevant to what you're looking for, right? So when you have that meta description of your content, if you're doing it on WordPress, it's always going to be that, I think it's called post excerpt. It's over on one side when you're writing your post. Make sure that it's compelling, because that's what's going to show up underneath the headline. That's what's going to convince people to actually click through. So it has to be compelling, and it has to include relevant keywords, both for Google's sake and for the people who are actually looking at this content going, is this really relevant to what I'm looking for, or is there something else? So make sure it's in your meta description. Make sure that if you use any images, the alt tag of your image has relevant keywords. Google cannot read images or video or audio content yet. They are working on it. I'm sure that is just around the corner, but as of right now, we provide those alt tags so that Google can get an idea of what that content is. So I always put keywords in that alt tag space right there. And then again, put it throughout your content. Make sure that you're actually talking about whatever it is your topic is. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing now. I think that's pretty much everything I had. Is everyone good for me to stop sharing? Is there anything that anyone wanted me to go back and review?
I had a quick question, and maybe I misheard you. Is there 4 types of searches or 3?
I may have missed one.
Navigational, transactional, informational.
Yes, and comparison.
And it's fine. I think maybe I.
No, I think
okay.
Comparison.
Thank you.
I think you're right. I think I forgot to mention that. That's comparison. Yeah, that's when people are, again, they're later in the buyer stage, in the buyer journey, and they're just like, should I buy from this person or should I buy from that person? And that's going to have things like the best or the prices or, those kinds of phrasing in the keyword is when people are looking to buy. They're just trying to figure out who they're going to buy from. Awesome. I'm glad that makes sense. Thank you for asking that. Any other questions before I stop screen sharing? Any other questions at all? Does this make sense? Is anyone still confused? Did I lose you guys?
I think it makes sense. And I wonder if there's an opportunity to like break it into 2 pieces, like 2 levels of capability, or right? Like some of us will get to it, like we'll get to a certain point where we're learning about our business through these kinds of keywords. And then we'll get to a point where we're like, okay, I'm gonna either dive right in and do all of this, or I'm gonna hire someone to do this for me. So if this were the best practice, what would you say the hack would be to get like a general sense of how maybe the basics of optimizing your website, or at least starting to, I love what you were saying about where the buyer is in the journey. That's actually what I'm hoping to use this for myself, is to help my clients understand that there's different pieces of content for each piece of the funnel. And when they're really far out, maybe they're asking these questions, they're asking more educational questions. They want to learn about the general problem. And then as they get closer, they are looking for those, 5 tips or best practices or whatever, more like evaluation terms. Okay.
Yeah. So as far as, let me see if I can understand the question. So you're looking for a way to do this that's a little simpler, like not diving all in to everything we just covered. Is that correct?
Yeah. Like what would be the but not as good version for sure. A place to, the easy place to start. And then where you are, you know, maybe you're buying tools and you're keeping up on this on a regular basis and changing your ads and running your own ads, or just admitting someone else needs to do this for you.
Yeah. Well, I definitely
And
recommend playing around with it. Obviously, this is also a service I provide. So if you just throw up your hands in the air and want me to do it for you, that's obviously something I can do. But I do recommend just like playing around with it, just because I feel like when I first got started, if I had known all this, I would have been like way too intimidated to even get into it. But the more I play around with it and realize, you know, the different keywords get different numbers and then they change colors, which I think is really cool. So I've actually found it super interesting just to play around with that and see what data I can get. Just because that informs me as to what my audience is looking for and the kinds of questions they're asking around the services I provide. So I think my tip would just be to take it slow. If you do want to start out with the free resources, again, Answer the Public has that. It's a free resource, but it's very limited as to the information that you get. You don't get all those numbers. Google does have its own keyword analyzer that is free. It has I've heard mixed reviews on Google's keyword analyzer. I've heard some people say it's okay. I've heard other professionals say that it's not great. The data that it gives you is not super accurate. But if you're looking to like dip your toes into doing your own keyword research and maybe you don't want to, you know, pay for a subscription for a keyword tool that requires a subscription, maybe start with Google's keyword analyzer, just so that you start to kind of get the idea of what a keyword tool is, how it works, what all those numbers mean. And then always look at your own data when you use the keyword in your content and you publish your content. Always have Google Analytics for your website. It is free. It will give you all kinds of information as to how much traffic you're getting to your website, where that traffic is coming from, the keywords they're using to find you, which pieces of content they're looking at. Use all of that information so that you know if people are gravitating more towards one piece of content over another, that's an indication there's a demand for that content, and maybe there's not such a demand for the other content.
You know, it's funny that you should say that. As you were demoing the paid one, I also put the same term into trends.google.com and it gave the same arc.
Okay.
But it gives it like a score of 25 to 100 or whatever, 0 to 100, which really doesn't help you understand, I don't think, the same level for sure. Although I did notice that Pennsylvania really hot on counties.
There you go. See, that's the kind of information that I don't think you do get from SERPstat. So that's interesting. So yeah, if you want to know, and that absolutely can be super valuable if you are providing products or services in a given area. To know, you know, is this popular in your area? Are people in your specific area looking for this information, or not so much, or looking for this product or service? So yeah, that is interesting. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right.
Thanks so much, Allison.
You're welcome.
I
Dee Dee?
was totally green and kind of overwhelming, but great information. At least I have an idea.
That's where I'm at too, Sue.
Go ahead.
It's like, you know, I'm gonna process some of this and try some of this out, and then we'll see it. It's like, so totally, it was very helpful.
Good. And I think most, if not all of you, have my contact information. So always feel free to reach out and ask me any questions that you have. I'm always happy to hop on another Zoom call and go over this.
Or do it for us.
Or do it for you.
for you.
That's also an option.
Allison, when you talked about SurfStat and your research, using that type of a keyword tool, is that because it is effective for more website or blogging, that sort of thing? It's giving you the best information there. Are there other keyword tools that maybe do a better job in e-commerce settings, types of different type of metadata that you're looking for where you're trying to reach the client, the customer?
Yeah, well, like, hang on, I was gonna start screen sharing and then I changed my mind. Lindsay did mention that Google Trends will show you geographically where people are searching that keyword, and that is not something that SERPstat will show you. So that is, if that's something that matters to you, that is something to take into consideration. As far as other search tools, where is it? There we go. I'm gonna go back to screen sharing. So when I was doing my research as to what keyword tool is the best, which one should I use, it really compared the volume and the keyword difficulty score, these are the two that I use the most. I have not yet gotten into PPC, something I'm considering, but have not gotten there yet. So I tend to not pay any attention to this, but I do look at the volume and the keyword difficulty. And I found that because I was using different keyword tools and they were giving me different numbers in these areas. And I was like, wait a minute, why is the same keyword giving me different numbers in different tools? So that was when I had to do my research as to different keyword tools and why I was getting it. And it turns out some are more accurate than others. And they had found that SERPstat had the most accurate numbers here. So yeah, so that's why I went with SERPstat. But yeah, it can absolutely be beneficial to use more than one keyword tool if you are looking at different information and maybe one keyword tool doesn't give you all the information you want.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Sure. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, if that is it, I think I'm going to call it. Thank you, Sue. She just put in the chat that it's appreciated. Super helpful, Lindsay. Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording too.